Welcome back to Pod by the Bay, presented by the Bay Area Examiner, and also presented by our good friends at HomefieldApparel.com. You can use our code BAE15 for 15% off your first order at HomefieldApparel.com, or you can use our affiliate link in the description if you've already been a Homefield patron and you just want to help the site out a little bit. So if it's first time, which, easy to create an email, use code BA15 for 15% off your first order at HomefieldApparel.com, or use our affiliate link in the description. Homefield, a lot of great USF merch, great merch for other colleges as well. If you have family members that have attended some other institutions that are not quite as good as USF, you can find some for them there as well. So, and if it's your first time, use code BAE15 for 15% off your first order. I am Seth Varnadore, joined by Robert Steeg, to talk another week of USF athletics. We've got things happening. There are things happening. Basketball is kind of in a slow period, but it's also it's kind of an odd point of the season, right? The portal's open, but there's also like dead periods in recruiting. So there's not a ton of action right now, officially.
Yeah.
But
we can verify that you haven't seen USF do anything new in the last couple of days.
Yeah, but there's no dead period on hiring coaches. So USF has kind of basically they've completed their on-court staff, right? Is it head coach and 3 assistants?
Yeah, I think they're going to hire one more, I think. But yeah, it's basically
there's like director of basketball office and things like that you kind of add in. But so let's talk about it. It's pretty much, I mean, you'll talk about some of these guys in a second, give some actual names. Some first of all, some great names as you'll hear in a second. But it's pretty much like a copy and paste from Arkansas State.
Easy bios.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So who do we got coming over here, Steve, from the old Red Wolves?
Yeah, we'll start from, I guess, theoretically the top. So joining Hodgson as the associate head coach is what some may consider to be the best name in college basketball is T. Butters.
Yes.
Very good. Very great name. He comes over as the associate head coach. So basketball coaching titles are kind of weird. You got like associate head coach, assistant head coach, assistant to the head coach, associate assistant head coach. There's a bunch of names for him. But we got him coming over from Arkansas State, as well as assistant coaches Jamie Quarles and Derek Rongstad. So just phenomenal names all around.
Yes.
I'm very glad that there's no like weird, like long-winded names or anything like that are going to take a while to pronounce. Hodgson, we found out we were saying it wrong, and we admitted to it, but I don't think we're wrong on any of these, which is a blessing.
That's nice.
Yes. But yes, officially got announced over the last 3 days, I think. They announced one per day.
Yeah, and Butters, like you said, Butters seems to be the lead assistant. He's also who Hodgson gave his kind of vote of confidence behind for the Arkansas State job, right? He was the suggestion he made to the staff there. Hey, hire him, keep it going. They need to go in a different direction. But I think Butters was also like on campus at USF pretty quick before Arkansas State hired their coach. So it's probably going to happen pretty soon. Interesting note on him. So his grandfather was the athletic director at Duke that hired Mike Krzyzewski. So he's got a connection to Coach K, whether you like that or not. But he does have, that's an interesting connection there for him. And he's coached, started his career at Charleston Southern as a video coordinator, then worked his way up to assistant coach, then associate head coach there, and then moved on to Arkansas State with Coach Hodgson, and I was there with him for a couple seasons last year as associate head coach. So he's your lead assistant, I would think. And then Quarles. What's the story on him?
Yeah, he again came over from Arkansas State. Will sound like a broken record on that. He looks like weird non-lateral move. They have him listed as an assistant coach, but he was also an associate head coach at Arkansas State. I think that's more, again, these are just titles at this point. I think the pay obviously went up for some of them. But yeah, so he's been there since 2023. He has a pretty extensive background. Like he's got like more than a decade of coaching. And it's all, in various roles throughout his career prior to joining Nate Oates at Buffalo.
Yeah, so he was with Hodgson at Buffalo as well. So that's where they first met up.
Yep.
I think the really interesting stop in his career to me is he was the head coach at Oak Hill Academy, which if you've followed basketball recruiting for any amount of time, I'm not sure if there's still a factory, but like I'm pretty sure like Carmelo Anthony with Oak Hill, like there was Oak Hill put out just 5-star after 5-star after 5-star for a long time. So being the head coach there is probably pretty cool. So
yeah. And he's from Augusta, which that's timely.
Yes.
It is.
He's an assistant, unlike any other.
Yeah, he was there you go. All
right.
Season. And then Derek, I want to give him like the most super like Nordic or like Eastern European sounding last name. I have a feeling it's just Rongstad. But I feel like Rongstad.
He's from Wisconsin, so not too far from old Minnesota, where you get some of those Norsemen up there. But he again is coming from Arkansas State, but he was previously started off as a graduate manager at Alabama. So he was there at Alabama with Hodgson, and then was the video coordinator, and then went from video coordinator to assistant coach. So he's worked his way up as well. So it's what the other kind of thing to see. It's not a very old staff.
No, they're very young. I think Quarles has like the most age. I think it's the most appropriate way to say that.
Yeah, he graduated in 2008. So he graduated college with his bachelor's in 2008. So he's not exactly ancient. So
right.
Not a very old staff. So a lot of young guys should help in recruiting, and that you saw at Arkansas State. They were a really good recruiting staff, and they brought basically everyone they recruited there just about over to USF. Some of those guys played what was it, like an all-star game? Like what was this
Yeah, so it's I was trying to look up what the acronym actually stands for, because I just called it Quench, like CWENCH. It's got to stand for something, but it's the All Canadian girls and boys basketball, which I don't like. I guess is like the equivalent to like the McDonald's All Americans for like the U.S. or Canada.
Yeah, it's a high school all-star basketball showcase for Canada.
Yeah, so I'm trying to confirm what I think I already know, which was that all three of them played in it, or at least were on the roster. I know Tristan Beckford and Onyx Nani.
Yeah, Quench is just the name of the sponsor. So
okay,
Quench Hydration, but it's the all Canadian games, which is all-star basketball games. With Canada's top seniors, and you had a lot of future Bulls out there.
Yeah, and confirmed Adriel Niora did play in it. So all three USF high school commits did play in the game. Tristan Beckford had a game-high 26 points and was named the MVP, which is pretty cool. He had 13 rebounds as well, so a nifty little double-double. No other stats posted from the game. Not that to be seen.
Well, that's all you need to know. And Canada is basketball is kind of on the rise. So you're getting kind of it's seemingly possibly the best player in the country for his class. Probably pretty good. So should be
Seems good.
should be good for the old USF Bulls there in basketball. I'd imagine he'll be a guy that can come in and play pretty quickly. Seems to be athletic. Was going to be. I think we spoke about him last week. Um, seems to want to kind of relish the role of being a really good defender right away and being able to come in and match up with the other team's best players. So, good attitude as well. So, should be a nice addition to the team.
Yeah.
Steeg, anything left from you on men's basketball before we transition quickly to women's basketball? Because Tampa was kind of the epicenter of women's basketball this past weekend.
Yes, it was. As you're listening to this on Thursday, I believe, the dead period ends on the Friday. So while you have not seen any, I guess visits is the only thing that really hadn't been seen. There's been contact, there's been discussions, there's been a lot of checking in on, as one site put it so eloquently, which I thought was a very strange way of putting that. But they will probably have some visitors this upcoming weekend. They'll probably round out the roster here soon. I don't imagine that Bryan Hodgson is going to wait much longer during this portal period. And as I have to say every time, there's nothing binding these college athletes to the school except for when the semester starts. So until we get a new semester turnover, transfers can move, transfers can go, they can do whatever they want. Just be aware of that.
And how many spots are they looking to fill? Is it 6 or 7
yes.
left? Or I think that was the number we were talking, 7-ish left.
Let me pull up my basketball roster. So if they were to get to the minimum, which is 13, they will need, they have 6 open spots for that as of right now. They can go up to 15.
So there you go. There is a lot still to be. So some good pieces, some really good pieces so far, but probably a lot incoming for this team still. So I wouldn't be shocked to see a bunch of additions here pretty soon. So next week we might have a lot to talk about on that front. But let's go ahead and move on to women's basketball. They're also in the portal, but kind of same thing in terms of the timeline. Big week in Tampa, obviously, for women's basketball, with the Final Four being there, a lot of events, a lot of things happening. Steeg, Tampa seems to do pretty well with these events, and I'd imagine they're going to keep getting them.
Yeah. I talked with a few folks, both in and out of the women's basketball sphere, and it seems like Tampa, and Charlie Baker, I think even said it, is becoming a very accustomed championship hosting site for not just basketball, but for many other sports as well. Rob Higgins over at the Tampa Bay Sports Commission does a great job of attracting top level games to the Tampa Bay area, and they invest a lot into the infrastructure, into the fan experience. So it's always nice to see it pay off. Just skimming through Twitter, a lot of people who were attending the Final Four mentioned a lot of positive things about being in the Tampa Bay area, for hotels, for food, for whatever they were looking to do. So great stuff to hear all around, though. Glad we get more opportunities at it, and hope they host even more in the future.
Yeah, and Jose Fernandez is going to become the president of the Women's Basketball Coaches Association, so that should be interesting. I don't know if that's equates to recruiting bumps, like sometimes coaching on and some international teams might do, or some Team USA's would do, but we'll see how that goes. Can I tell you my favorite line from all the Final Four media this week?
Please.
Was when Gino Auriemma, of all people, said that revenue sharing will destroy parity in women's college basketball. Ah, yes, women's college basketball, the bastion of parity.
Hey, Gino, which ring can you spell parody on? Is it your first, second, or 12th?
That's the one on his toes that he has to wear when he wears all of them. So, yes, I was like, parody, Gino.
There hasn't been parody in women's basketball since like the 80s.
It's been a while. Yeah. It seems to be runs of dynasties for the most part. So we'll see. If it gets, I think methinks Gino likes winning national championships, and possibly more people sharing money will be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's just me, though. All right, let's leave basketball, get into football. We've had a couple of commits since we last spoke. I think actually probably 3 since we last spoke. So running back Jordan Thompson from Coconut Creek, receiver Josiah Dozier from Moody, Alabama, who has some nice 7-on-7 film there. And then safety CJ Kresser from Lakeland. I believe he was somewhere else. Was he at Tarpon Springs last season?
He was at Tarpon Springs. He's a sponger.
Yeah. So good offer list for CJ Kresser, the old spongers. But all these guys, Dozier is a guy, he's like an 87 on 24/7, but 6'2", 190. He looks pretty good. Like all the people in Alabama that kind of once he committed, you saw a bunch of stuff. Just if you look at his offer list, offers from UAB, Memphis, Liberty. So a lot of pretty quality. Let's say Georgia Tech and Ole Miss have offered as well. I don't know if those are committable, but I think he's a guy that is you may have to hold some people off for, but long and can run and can go up and get it. It seems like so should fit well in the offense, and he seems to be a really good one. CJ Kresser. It seems like this has happened with a couple of the guys that are taking it, it's a safety, or guys that are recruiting that are listed as safeties, but look like they may end up in college playing more like a outside linebacker or more of an in the box safety role. And he seems to fit that description, right?
Yeah, I mean his I think he had like 148 tackles or something like that last season. He'll be
according to
on the line.
164 tackles, 22 tackles for loss, and 3 sacks, according to 24/7. So
yeah, he'll sit in the box. He's already got like pretty good size. He's not exactly the tallest, but size and weight wise, you can teach you can kind of get a little bit more size and weight behind these guys. But you can't really teach grit as a defensive back. He is not going to be a defensive back when he starts playing for the University of South Florida. He will be basically a box linebacker / like hybrid safety / like an angry Jamie Bird or something out there. Very, really interesting highlight film too. Like he flies around a lot. For literally a safety, he was up on the line probably about 25-30% of the time in his thing. Like for no reason, just up in the box.
Yeah, I mean those numbers are pretty wild. So, other commit Jordan Thompson of Coconut Creek. Anything on him? He's got some. It looks like he got some decent offers last year. An early Illinois offer. It looks like they're kind of the biggest school that was on him. Anything else on him?
He so when I was telling people about who was going to commit, I said kind of ignore the offer list, ignore the thing, and just kind of pop his film on. He's probably what I would consider to be a late bloomer in these types of cycles where a lot of schools are trying to balance the portal. They're trying to balance high school evaluations and everything like that. He seems like a guy who might just be slipping under the radar, maybe not attending, the most number of camps to get noticed or anything like that. But his film's pretty solid. Translating high school running backs into college is always going to be weird. So, the more, not necessarily the more the merrier, but like if you can slip in a quality guy who just doesn't have that many offers and you're early on him and committable early on him, that's only going to pay your dividends down the line when, say, like a Florida, an FSU, and Miami and Alabama come sniffing around later on during their cycle and saying, oh, this guy's already got some, high-end offers. We might as well toss our hat in the ring because we need a running back flyer or something like that. So I liked his film. I really liked kind of his shake and bake style. So I'd watch out for him to kind of really pop off his senior year and just get a crap ton of offers in the next 8 months.
And Coconut Creek, I think, seems like a spot that's produced a lot of pretty good players in recent years. So probably a pretty good program to dip into there. So yeah. All right. Anything else on the football recruiting side, Steeg?
They should
football in general, I guess we could say.
Yeah. They're not going to tell us anything in spring practice.
I do think what we heard from Golish, the other day was not too dissimilar to what you said you saw at the initial practice, where it seems to be a lot more player-led, which is always good. But then it's also one of those things where it's like, well, you weren't saying any of this stuff, because it's like, oh, this year's better than last year by a lot already. It's like, well, you weren't telling us anything was bad last year, so it's hard, I will say Derek Bowman, very well-spoken young man.
Yes. I think that's
dropped and alluded to in his press conference.
He's got a great mustache too. Something to look for. I mean, I think that's probably the biggest takeaway from spring so far is how well spoken the players are, and I mean this in like a very strange way. Like they have like a different sort of feel about them. Like in years past, like talking to these guys, like you could almost sense like a feeling of desperation about them.
Yeah, I think they're confident. They're also older, right? Like this is probably an older team than some of the teams you've had recently. So guys are a little more comfortable. I think they're confident. And it seemed like just trying to kind of read between the lines, maybe some injuries on the offensive line possibly. Because Bowman said something about young guys having chances to step up and earn playing time. I believe he was talking about the offensive line when he was referencing that. But Golish highlighted a lot of young guys playing well. Lachlan Hewlett was one. He spent a lot of time on. And Jeremiah Coger was another one. He listed a lot of the young guys that had come in and played well. And I did think it was good to hear. Not that I didn't believe you already, Steve, but kind of backed up what you said on day one, and that seemed to be kind of the big thing coming out of the press conference the other day was that player-led team kind of starting to take over, which you saw early on in spring. So it was good to kind of hear that being confirmed by the staff, because that is always when you're at your best. And it takes some time, right? You got to set the standards and set the ground rules, kind of. And in year 3, it's good to hear that that's kind of happening now, right?
Yep. No, I mean that's what it's all about at this point. Like it's, y'all know my feelings of spring football. There isn't really much. It's a lot of blowing smoke up people's rears and just telling people what they want to hear for the most part, and trying to read between the lines for what the players say, because the coaching staff, Golish, Cody Burns, Todd Orlando, whomever it is going to tell you exactly.
That's great. Tell you. Then next spring, they'll be like, oh yeah, there are some things going on.
Yeah. I mean, and when we get closer to the spring game, I'm sure we're going to hear a little bit more about like injuries and who might be participating and who might not be. I think the spring game is going to be a very odd setup this year, because I don't think that they're going to be able to really, honest to God, dress enough quality players to do like a green versus white or something like that. So you might just get an offensive showcase of like ones versus twos, two versus ones.
If there are, I guess my big question would be is if there, it seemed, and again, I may not have heard the question, but it seemed like Bowman was saying there was some injuries on the offensive line, or they're holding guys out, young guys getting a chance. That would be where, are there enough healthy linemen to do full games? That's kind of, are they going to hold guys out? I would imagine if you're close, you're getting held out, right?
Yeah.
So it may look a little bit different, and that's happened at a bunch of places where it comes down to how many healthy guys you have up front. But they seem to have a lot of young guys and that's to me what the best part of spring is. It's not seeing the established guys, it's seeing young guys and who can kind of go out on that stage and make some plays out in front of the crowd for the first time. So
it would behoove me to say this, that a successful spring game this year is just if Marcellus Tate and Lachlan Hewlett have a lot of fun.
And Jeremiah Koger catches some bombs, and maybe Chenault has an interception or something. Yeah, let the young guys get out there, and no injuries.
No
most
injuries.
Importantly, that's really the most important thing. Which it seems like injuries happen more often in actual practices than they do in the spring games.
Yeah,
for whatever reason. So I do think the biggest news to come out of spring practice so far is something that came. I don't know. For me, it was a little bit out of nowhere, but I think this is one you've been trying to kind of figure out what was going on. Naeem Simmons hits the portal in the middle of spring practice. Anything on this one? See, this is one where we never really got a confirmation last year if it was injury or discipline related for him to miss the entire season. It seemed to be injury because he was remained in the program and everything seemed to be, but I don't know. Have you heard anything on it? Because it's odd that he was,
hold on. Let me get the exact timing of things, and then I think it'll make sense.
Because he was one that was coming, you felt like him coming back would be a nice big boost to the receiver core. He started to come on a little bit towards the end of the prior season, and him not playing was kind of when he was out, and then Jaden Alexis got hurt. Two of your kind of top returning guys were out for the season, so you lost some of that punch in that room. Now they've done a pretty good job recruiting freshmen to come in there. Koger is the guy we mentioned, and Golish mentioned the other day in his press conference. But then you've got some young guys that have stepped up towards the end of last year. But it's kind of an odd situation.
It is. So Naeem Simmons hit the portal 2 days ago.
Yes.
So we're going to is Monday, right? Probably. USF had what I'm assuming to be a spring scrimmage on that Saturday. And Alex Golish on the Tuesday after their practice specifically called out Corey Pettigrew and Jeremiah Koger as quote unquote physically and mentally mature beyond their years.
Yeah. And Chaz Nimrod is another guy that's seemingly having a really good spring. And he said he looks like he's been in the system for 3 years because he has been in the system for 3 years. So you think maybe it's more of a, hey, there's not going to be a lot of footballs to go around. I got one season left.
Right.
Type of deal? Or is it as simple as that, you think?
Yeah. I to be as candid as possible, it's like now's kind of the time to trim the fat a little bit, especially because the portal is going to be reopening at some point. And I think that's where if you have the ability to get a little bit more buy-in by someone who might be a little bit hungrier.
Let me see if I can reuse one of our old banners here.
Yeah.
Yes.
There we go.
We're in the speculation zone here.
And again, we know he was injured at some point, which led to, I came to understand that there was he spent a lot of time at Rehab Island is what we call it. And so to me, had a feeling that he just needs a fresh start to find that hunger back inside of him. I don't think he dressed at all last year. Again, we could speculate it all day and night. We don't know. We're not a part of the program. And I asked very specifically a lot of times about Naeem Simmons.
Yes, we did not get an answer. So that's why we are firmly in the speculation zone here.
We got a more straightforward answer asking about Byron Brown's injury than we did about Naeem Simmons. And we were lied to about Byron Brown the entire time, if that tells you anything about that situation. So we don't know. And usually at that point, we don't pry much further than that because sometimes the juice just isn't worth the squeeze, especially in these types of situations where the guy transferred out anyways. If he was still going to be held out for like the first like 6 games this year, then yeah, I would be like, all right, what the hell is going on? Like, why is he not why is he not showing up? But here we go. Here we are.
Well, if the young guys are ready to play, then it's not too big of a loss. If you're kind of stuck where you were at the beginning of last year, then it could be a loss. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I think they've gotten some of those young growing pains out of the way for like the Jaquan Smiths and the Singletons. So they should be in much better spot, I think. We're out of the speculation zone, Steeg.
We're out of it. No, we're not in anymore. We're out.
We're out of the speculation zone. All right, so let's finish up talking a little softball, baseball. I think we should probably mention men's track real quick.
Yeah.
Quickly.
Number 7 in the nation.
Pretty good.
Women are women not doing as good. But
not quite as good.
For where they are at. Let me see. Shout out to Chris Hadley in the Discord. He and I, best buds. Women's track and field are 91st in the country. Again, not bad.
Have we talked since Saminu busted that 987 or whatever? Was it a 987 100 meters?
987 was it? 987 wind adjusted.
And I believe that's the number 1 time right now
in the world.
That'll get you up in the top 10.
Yeah, that'll vault.
It's amazing. It is. Yeah, it is. I would say amazing, but it's really interesting that they've made this climb with all the negative things that have recently happened, and losing what I would imagine would be a helpful component of your ranking.
Yeah.
In goodness Iridius. So, yeah. Good job there. Top 10 in the country. Number 7. Pretty cool. So
pretty cool. And then men's tennis. Top 25 men's tennis program. We did it. They finally rose in the rankings instead of dropped after going undefeated. They're a lock to get to the NCAA tournament. Hugo Carr, as far as I know, is a lock for the singles. And then I believe him and his teammate, Ettore Danesi, are locks now to be in the doubles NCAA tournament. So there is a possibility that USF team and then Hugo Carr and Ettore Danesi are going to be in the NCAA tournament all throughout the spring here. So really good stuff there.
Yeah, and we wanted to end this one with talking a little baseball, softball. Baseball took 2 or 3 from Memphis. Lost to Stetson yesterday, but as we always say, midweek baseball, shrug emoji. It is what it is. But I believe they play Rice this weekend, right? Who's pretty bad. Mm-hmm. That should be another opportunity to take some games. Currently second, or they're tied for first in the conference, but second on a tiebreaker right now. But with UTSA, they do play UTSA later this year. So I think there is still a very real chance that they could win the conference in baseball. Steeg, I know we had a comment last week that the baseball that I asked you, how you felt they were with expectations. That the commenter felt like they were performing well above expectations so far in this year one. And you've seen some people say Hannah should be coach of the year, and the team's playing really, really well. So 8-2 in their last 10, and it was the last 2 they lost. So it should be able to start a new win streak here this weekend.
Yep, they're gritty. I think is the best way to describe them. There have been multiple times that it seems like things are kind of falling apart on the pitching side of things, and then all of a sudden they rattle off like 5 runs, and then it doesn't matter at that point, or you just get unbelievable level of contribution from a guy that you didn't really expect. I've been saying this. I think that this USF baseball team is merely just good. And I think they're a lot better than they had been in the past. So I think a lot of people are getting really, really high on them quickly. But they have they have some pretty upstanding issues, especially once you get deeper into that bullpen. Once you get to arms like 6, 7, 8, like they really start to struggle going further than 2 innings. You have a lot of young arms, you have a lot of injured arms, and then you have a lot of arms that I don't think have it anymore. Which we could potentially talk about in the Ponderosa one day. But you're kind of you have a surefire hell yeah Friday starter in Corey Braun, which we love. The good news is you're going to get Austin Newton back, and Austin Newton was a preseason top 10 player in the American Athletic Conference and one of the top pitchers in the country. So you might get hell yeah Saturday starter. And then I think you have just enough good-ish pitching between like Bryce Archie, a Corey Kling, Landon Yorick, Matt Goldenbaum. Like you have a good bit of like a Jack Nedro even of just arms that could get you from a pinch out of a pinch, or just kind of get like some relief innings out. I don't think you have enough arms to like this 8-game win streak was fantastic. I don't think you're going to get another 8-game win streak. I think that Tulane series was more about the bats being effective than it was the pitching being effective. And you kind of saw it on display at Memphis and then last night against Stetson, where the bats did fairly well, all things considered, but just the pitching can kind of lose you some games most times. So just something to keep in mind as we go forward. It's also baseball. You get ruts and you go on like 4-game losing streaks, and it's whatever.
If you do get another 8-game win streak, you're probably getting into the tournament, right? Unless you totally implode, because that'll mean beating Florida State, who you've got coming up in your midweek next week, getting revenge against Bethune-Cookman. But there's a chance for them to make a run in conference. The midweek games are kind of whatever, but Charlotte is a decent team, but they're not unbelievable. You got Rice and Wichita State, which are both series that they can win, and then you end kind of towards the end of the year playing UTSA, who is in first right now. So you'll have a chance, I think, to kind of control your own destiny, so to speak, there in baseball. Which I think if you told everyone before the season, hey, this team's going to be contending for the conference title, I think everybody would have been pretty happy with it. So pretty good start there. Softball, not quite in the same position as baseball, but pretty good. I think they're third right now in the conference. Just not too far back. They're 9-5-1 in conference. North Texas is 10-5. FAU is 13-2. We talked last week. It seemed like it was going to be a USF FAU kind of race. North Texas is in there as well. What are your thoughts here on softball as of late?
Yeah, they're kind of in a weird funk, and that's weird to say because statistically, we've talked about it all year. Statistically, they're really good, but just situationally, again, they have a lot of struggles. They have a lot of problems. It became very apparent against Florida Atlantic, who Florida Atlantic has a very good ace.
And that felt like that was probably your chance to win the conference, right? Was to go in there and at least win that series. You do win one game in this series, but FAU takes 2 out of 3, so they get another game up on you.
Right.
So it's going to be tough to come back, right?
Yeah, you're going to need a lot of help. And I think at this point, you're basically vying for either second or third at this point, which is fine. Just don't drop too many games from now until the season, and you're probably still fighting for that at-large spot. You may miss it at this point. And that's the part that sucks.
Yeah, you've got I think you've got possible series, which it's so the ball and bat sports are it's hard to go on these long runs. We just talked about baseball going on 8-game, but it's so difficult to go on like really long winning streaks. I feel like in these sports, because there's some they can be random, or a pitcher can just get really hot and there's nothing you can do about it. But you play Tulsa and Memphis the next 2 series. Both teams are under 500. Memphis is 4-11 in conference. Tulsa is 6-9 in conference. So those you could very easily, I think, I wouldn't be shocked if you could sweep through those. You have Florida in a midweek, which will be tough at Florida. But then you play North Texas, who's right ahead of you right now in the standings, and then UTSA, who's last in the conference. So Memphis and UTSA are second to last and last. So you've got a chance to really compile some wins. Now, FAU plays a similar schedule. So I think it's going to be really hard to catch them. But if you're talking, like you said, about an at-large, I think you've got a chance to put a lot of wins on the board if you kind of play up to your potential here.
Yeah, you're going to need like run rule victories against Memphis and UTSA. You are probably afforded, if you're looking at the rest of the year, 3 Tulsa, 3 Memphis, 3 North Texas, 3 UTSA, and that 1 Florida game.
3 losses at most. 2 maybe.
I think it's like 2. I think you can
Florida
lose
and
Florida, and you're not going to. You could lose to Florida like 25-0 in 5 innings, and they're going to be like, yeah, whatever, it's fine. I think the real danger zone at this point for USF is that North Texas series at North Texas. Currently, right now, Warren Nolan has it as a 3-game sweep for North Texas. If that happens, season's done at that point. Like you have to win the conference tournament at that point. If you get swept in Denton, season's over. You beat those Big Ten schools for nothing because you couldn't beat the teams in your own conference at that point.
Yeah, and North Texas and FAU play before. I believe they play before USF plays at North Texas. So it'll be interesting to see where they're at by the time they actually get to those games, because North Texas could be in a spot where they've tumbled a little bit, or they could be leading the conference. Like it could be if they go in there and somehow sweep FAU, which doesn't seem likely, but if they do, then you're looking at where you're playing a really, really hot team, and it could be a really, really tough series for you. But that's one where if you get a couple wins there, should help the old RPI and all that kind of stuff. So, it should be exciting end for both those sports. What's nice is they both have a chance, I think, to make it as an at-large still. USF, I saw in one projection in baseball, was in the first 4 out, but they've got some chance to load up on some wins like we talked about. And I think softball has that same chance too. And if they can win some of these toss-up games, maybe you've got a real good shot there. But we'll see. They've got to do it. So, Steeg, any final thoughts on this week? Another jam-packed week of USF athletics here on Pod by the Bay. Any final thoughts?
I mean, like, things are good. Like, they're not great, but things are good. And it feels weird to be in this situation where, like, we're talking about softball, like, maybe narrowly missing out on the NCAA tournament. We're talking about how baseball is, like, good, not elite. Basketball is doing a whole lot of hirings and transfer portaling, and same thing with women's basketball. They seem to be a lot of big splashes at this point. And then like football looks like they're humming at this point. So it's a very strange time because it seems like at times when you check certain social medias or check in with people, they're like, oh my God, like nothing's happening for USF. Like nothing good's happening. And it's like, no, like we've won pretty good bit of games over the last couple of weeks, over the last couple of months. Like, men's basketball taking a dip this year.
Most people only care about 2 or 3 sports. So
Right.
it's off season for football, and then basketball didn't have as great of a year. So everything stinks.
Right.
That's just how it is for a lot of fans.
Yeah.
You see, that's pretty
Which
much.
is fine.
I think that's somewhat universal across college athletics at the Division I level.
Yep.
And when it's the football off season, if basketball is not great, people start whining and freaking out about everything. So, but like you said, like there's been some pretty successful programs as of late. So there a lot of things seem to be trending in the right direction, which is always good. But right potential can be a killer. So you got to get to actual production at some point, and a lot of the programs are, but we'll see about some of the others. So
yeah, I know there's one program that we need to make some changes in, but that's for a Ponderosa episode.
Yes, that would be if we started to talk about that too much, we'd enter the speculation zone again. And really, we're just asking questions. So that's all we're doing. We're just asking questions. So, all right, Steeg, thank you for joining me this week. If you're enjoying this, you can get more on the Ponderosa, which is a section in our Discord that functions as a message board. And you can join us there on patreon.com/Bay Area Examiner. Join the Discord for $5 a month. For $10, you get an extra special podcast just about each week, usually 4 times a month. So 4 extra pieces of content a month at least. And then as football comes closer, those usually increase as well. So if you're enjoying this, tell your friends. Join us on Patreon. Thank you for listening. Go Bulls.
Go Bulls.